Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ai Microskills podcast, where I'm trying to teach marketers how to do more and do better by leveraging AI in what they're currently doing now. And today, this is a solo episode. I wanted to show you guys how I was using AI to build cover images for my podcast episodes like this one and YouTube thumbnails. So we all know in audience growth that you need to be able to attract someone to listen to content, whether it's to click your video or to get them to engage in your podcast. Oftentimes, it's the image that's going to seal the deal. In fact, let's take a look at this. We all know on YouTube that cover photos are the thing. And obviously, like in AI Microskills, I haven't been doing it at all. I've had lots of guests here. I have been making cover image, individual episode images for the podcast, but unfortunately they don't get transferred over to YouTube. So we've just been doing nothing. Like it's just a shot of the video. It's better than not posting at all, but you could tell somebody's not putting a lot of effort into YouTube if they're not making cover images. Let's put it that way. And the views show for it. I have some views. I'm surprised. I've got 11 here, 38 there. That's cool. But we want to do better. And AI is one of those things that can help you do more. And I used to be a graphic designer, and I know it takes a lot of time to make good cover thumbnails, right? I mean, look at Mr. Beast. He spends about 10 grand on his thumbnails for every episode, and it shows, right? Because they're crazy, insane some of them like little pieces of art, right? I mean, look at this. Look at the detail work. I can't even zoom into it without the video showing, but like it's so detailed. It's so good, showcasing very simply why people would want to watch that. It's a little value proposition in the image, right? You go to Alex Hermosi, who's doing more of an educational piece, and still lots of attention to detail on his thumbnails recently because he's got a whole media team working on this. Lots of Photoshop work. And Johnny Harris, another favorite YouTuber of mine, look how detailed these little thumbnails are. I mean, these could almost be movie poster style things if they were oriented differently, right? And were portrait. They could all of these could easily be movie posters. They're so good. And while I can't get to this level yet, I wanted to see where I could get, because where I was before was making these episode thumbnails, which was just like a repeat of the graphic. I had like this TV head robot Android person. I was just putting in the LinkedIn photo of the guest in there, which is kind of cool. It's a lot better than nothing. And I had a woman robot for the woman guests, right? And now you can see what I'm doing now is I'm still have the robot with the guest photo in the television, because I just thought that it was cool. I just like that. I might even use this as a personality in AI Microskills someday, this bot-like person. But now I'm creating a whole background with text to really expound on what we're talking about, kind of like in the YouTube thumbnails where it's like my personal GPT army, which I just released recently. See all the custom GPTs I'm working on behind the bot, right? Maybe a new series, who knows? Pod to blog. Leading for the AI future. And I wanted to show you step by step how I'm making images like these now and leveling up my game, and how you can too, because it's not that hard, but I will say it's not as easy as just dropping it into Midjourney. Midjourney can go pretty far, and even when I was doing this for the Attention podcast, you could just create it in Midjourney and then just drop some text over the top of it in like Canva, and that's not bad. Look at for these Attention podcast ones, much better than before, but not quite the level of like design that you really need to be doing for YouTube thumbnails. And that's what I wanted to get closer to, not just have an interesting image with the show cover or text on top of it, which isn't bad. This is a good step forward. But how do you make it so it's appealing? It almost pulls you in. It starts to show a value proposition for what you're going to see here, not just a fun image that captures attention, but actually starts to communicate what this show is about. So let's dive into it. For me, it all starts with Midjourney. Midjourney is fantastic. But oftentimes, if you don't have a visual communication background, if you haven't started in design or art, Midjourney can be really intimidating because you don't even know what you want. Well, I promise, if you're building out a YouTube channel or you're trying to do this with like a podcast or something like I am, what you want to do is lock in a specific style and stick to that style. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to go to this. If you have a Midjourney account, there's this feed here. Let me scroll back to the top, where once you log in, you come to this explore area, and it just shows you what other people are doing, which is kind of cool. I love it. And if you hover over it, it'll give you the prompt for it. And there's all kinds of things here. Some mildly inappropriate. I don't know why there's so many women. Yeah. I mean, I think we all know why, but dang. But what's really cool is you end up seeing like all these really different illustration styles, and you will gravitate towards some like this. I don't even know what this is actually. It's like a wood block cut looking thing. I don't even have language to describe some of these, and that's okay. But what you can do is if you're digging this illustration style of this one, you can click on it and actually get the full prompt. And then you can actually take and copy the parts of the prompt that are describing the style of the image, and then just change the topic for your image. Like, let's say you're doing something on leadership and you want all the hands coming in. You'll see I did this recently. That's why it's in my mind. Like all the hands coming in to a single shot, but you want it done in a certain style. And you just can't find, you can find stock photos of like a shot of a photo taken from above of everyone's hands in the middle. Very typical for like a team building type of thing. But maybe you want it done as a painting, an abstract painting where you can kind of tell it's hands but kind of not. Maybe as a splatter painting. Maybe you want it done as a vintage 80s rock poster because that is more the style of your show, right? And I'm giving some pretty like exaggerated styles, but you know, whatever that style is for you, you can find it. And if you don't know what it is, think about your current color palette. Are you currently minimal? Like think about what your brand currently represents visually. And of course, designers can do this better. So hand this off to your designer if you have one. But even so, you can kind of come in here and kind of curate your way to finding a style. And then eventually you can hire a designer that will be more purposeful and intentional with your style. And that's okay. Baby steps, right? Get things a little bit better at a time. So lots of different styles in here. You can even go searching for styles. If I scroll back to the top, go search through prompts. I could search for like something like minimalist, right? If you kind of know that's your thing, and look for minimalist styles. And maybe you find one that you like we like this more abstract one. We say, okay, what do they use? Minimalist white poster, minimalist contest. That's not a very descriptive prompt, but you could start to get an idea of what's working for other people to achieve the results that you're seeing here. So find something that works for you, and then go over into Discord and start experimenting. Now, the direction I took for AI Microskills is starting to lean towards this like vintage collage. It's honestly a medium that I fell in love with when I was first a graphic designer, and I never quite I've always wanted to play with this medium, this vintage collage medium, but it's really hard to do. Even though it seems simple to put together collages like these, it's hard because you have to have access to all the vintage clippings, right? You have to have a big pack of old magazines and old newspapers, and then you got to be able to find the right subject matter that explains what you want. It's a very difficult medium in order to create a design from actually making vintage clips or finding them online to do it. At least when I was starting, there wasn't a big stock photo libraries or vintage photo libraries that they have now. So it was really difficult to do. And now that I'm kind of circling back around, I'm like, I kind of like it. And partially, I kind of like this, like, if you can see, I experiment a lot in here with different visual styles. I kind of like this use case of like overlapping vintage modern with like this like new aesthetic, or like talking about a new topic of AI and with this like vintage stuff. I just like the contrast of like the old and the new together. I don't know what it is, but it's just vibing for me. I'm just curating my way to it and trying to justify it logically. But honestly, I just like the style. So that's kind of the direction I'm going with AI Microskills, slowly but surely. And then you just start prompting out ideas. Now, let me see where I've started. There's a prompt that I've been using, and it's starting to work and get consistent for me. Vintage photo collage of, and this is where I insert the subject, right? And then I just change out the subject from prompt to prompt. Vintage photo collage, muted vintage colors. Adam Hale, which is a collage artist I've been experimenting with, futurism. And just trying to do different things here. You can see to render this one, I said simple collage. I'm trying out collage art of 5 hands. You can see I was trying to do that hand thing with like one hand being a robot, but you know, like even Midjourney still struggles with hands sometimes. It just gets a little complicated. So that would have been an image. I went with a more typical leadership image of like people climbing up a mountain, but because it's collage style, I just figured it was fine. And this one was a simple collage, a team team of 5 people climbing up a mountain peak. It's really easy for AI to render like tried and true imagery. Muted vintage color, futurism, Dada, which is another art style that's kind of collage. It was like the first collage style was Dada back in, I think it was the 1920s. You could say I have language for this because I was a designer and explored art history and design history and all that kind of stuff. So it's not super new, but again, just steal it. Go find some inspiration, steal whatever language they're finding. I find new stuff all the time. Like I saw someone use a term of like I think it was abstract line art minimalism. No, you know what? I can't even remember. But she had used a phrase before that I'd never heard from the art world to describe what she wanted. And I really liked the result that she'd gotten. I assume it's a she. Somebody was trying to get with this. And it was fantastic. So you can just steal from here. And that's one of the things I like about Midjourney is you can steal from other people's prompts and then use them yourself in order to get the results you want. So this is great. And honestly, I probably could have used this by itself, but it's not quite there yet, right? Because again, if you look at almost all successful thumbnails, they all have words in them. And if you're going to put words in them and want it to look good, now you're starting to become a graphic designer. And sure, you could probably find a Canva template, and I recommend you do if you're not comfortable with Photoshop or something like that. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing in order to get it more designed, because this is a good start to illustration, and this is what I downloaded. Let me show you how I'm taking it into Photoshop and then using AI tools to complete the process, because even modifying this used to be a pain in Photoshop. Let me show you why and how it's making a big difference for me. So here I've dropped in the image and I just kind of trimmed out that orange beige border, which I knew would cause problems later. And it makes it so easy because in Photoshop you can select all the other area and then just say generative fill, and guess what? It does a remarkable job of rendering out everything that needs to be there. And the reason why I needed it, I could have just like taken this and just filled the frame with it, right? But I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be over here because I wanted to put that robot like for the guest photo over on the right side, which means I wanted the full mountain peak to just fill this specific area. And it used to take forever to then do something called clone stamping. And this is where AI has just gotten intense, and why AI is the future, because something that used to take forever, because I'd come here and just like start filling it in, but then I'm like, oh, like, see, like now it's copying in that section because it's just copying over, and I would have to like slowly pull it down. This is what graphic designers would have to do in order to do this right. Obviously, I'm not doing a very good job of it. But then to make it feel varied and like it's an actual extension is much more, it takes a lot more time. You can see how I'm starting to fill it in, but it starts to repeat the patterns. And how do you make it so it actually looks like it's a continuation and not just clone stamped, right? This clone stamping became an art in Photoshop, right? And good artists were really good at it. So let me undo all of that nonsense. And AI, it just gets it done for you really fast. In fact, it even creates multiple versions of it. This one was pretty simple for it to do, so there's not like a ton of variance. I'm just going to go back to the first iteration. It was fine. And then I layer on all the other stuff. Like I've already dropped in Courtney's image. And of course, if you're familiar with Photoshop, this is for, if you're not in Photoshop, all these layers and things become intimidating, but I've been in it for a long time and I've never lost touch with it. So I'm just used to working in here. To me, it's even easier than Canva because I just have spent more time in here. Obviously, I got my man version in here. Drop in, you know, I have this as a consistent template. So I just have these things in over here. I change out the name for the guest. Drop in almost the background image becomes what I'm creating in Midjourney. And bam, I just move every single thumbnail. I just move the text around the background image and maybe like chop into the letters a little bit to integrate the text into the image itself to make it a little bit more just visually interesting, right? And now we have a thumbnail. And the thing I'm doing that I haven't seen a lot of other people do, but I promise if you're a podcaster and you're making YouTube thumbnail images, what I'm doing to save time is I'm designing the cover art for every image as a square, but designing it in such a way, and I usually have some guidelines that I can just crop it in and it becomes an awesome thumbnail. You even have a little like preview of that in here. If I turn on this little cover, you can see like I can see what it's going to look like as a YouTube thumbnail, and it looks great. but why not get more bang for your buck, right? Why design a different cover image for the podcast, which is has to be a square format, and then have something different for YouTube? Might as well save some time, design it once, knowing that it's going to get cropped at the top and the bottom. So even though it's nice to have like a logo and guest name, the YouTube image is small and no one does that in YouTube. It's better just to have like a title part 2 in here, like leading for the future, leading for the AI future, right? So, and this is good. And that's my process. I'm rendering it out and then saving it over to Zencaster, where it will be posted with this thumbnail. And then after it gets posted to YouTube, I'm coming after the fact to upload the YouTube thumbnail. So hopefully you've learned something about how I'm using AI to create these improved podcast episode images and YouTube thumbnails. I think what this used to take hours to do, hours for one, which is why we didn't do it. Or you'd have to have a very expensive staff in order to create all these thumbnails. But now I'm not even an A+ designer. I'm honestly a B designer, and it makes it really easy to make something that looks pretty dang good, right? Is it as good as an A+ designer? Nah, no, I know those guys can do really well, but it's much better than what I had before. And it's all because AI is making it easy to find the right image. I don't have to search through hours of stock photos to find the right one. It just makes it for me. It's even done in the collage style and vintage collage style that I want done. Bam. And bring it into Photoshop where I can pull it out, move things where they are, all because AI makes it faster. And this is going to happen in every job in marketing, whether you're copywriting, video editing soon, all of it's going to have these like AI shortcuts that make it easy to do something that used to take 4 hours can now get done to 20 to 30 minutes. It's amazing. It's already affecting graphic design. It's going to affect video. It's obviously been affecting copywriting. So I just wanted to give you a taste of my process. Hopefully you've learned something from it. Let me know if you like this episode and if you want more in-depth tutorials of how I'm using it to build my own audience around AI microskills.